in remembrance of CJ. Drove the hearse Cadillac, a crowd of people gathered round, all dressed in black. And as they removed his body from the car, such pain she never knew has filled her heart. Why, oh why, I heard his mother cry. But oh Lord, it was the beginning of her and justice for CJ. In a mother's love, you will find everything. Everything's alright. To a mother's love, you are bound. You can rest on sacred ground. You are free to dream, because she sees what you can be. Did you know that mental health is a family affair? It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, one child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mama loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood thicker than the mud. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Oh, a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave because your heart is there. But you can't stay because you've been somewhere else. You can't cry because you look broke down. But you're crying anyway because you're all broke down. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, it's a family affair. Hey, hey. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Greetings and welcome to the Tiger's Den. This is the voice of Cheryl, and I am Toothless Tiger. Of course, you know I'm not on camera because I have this head cold, and I will be doing some reading, so I'm not coming on camera. So y'all forgive me. I want to say welcome to everybody. I want to say welcome, Crystal, chosen to be blessed, complex simplicity. I love that name, complex simplicity. What an oxymoron. I love it. Laura, hey. Phyllis, Sugar Man, Asatar. I'm glad you all made it. And anytime y'all know that you don't see Madria in here at the beginning, 9 times out of 10, she's resting in between jobs. And she hates it when I won't wake her up, but I don't. I just let her wake up. And then when she wakes up, she'll be here. She needs her rest. She works very hard. As you all know, we are in our book, Toxic Parents, Overcoming the Hurtful Legacy and Reclaiming Your Life. You know, this room should be full, but a lot of people don't really realize that they are victims of the title of this book. But we see the aftermath of what growing up in toxic homes are like. We see it in the behavior of the people here on this app. Although they love to say that this is just YouTube, I love to point out to individuals, the first word says you. So YouTube wouldn't mean anything without you, the human element. So for them to say it's just YouTube and then do the dastardly things that they do, it's really unfortunate. But of course, that's what most of us do. We throw rocks and hide our hands and then say it wasn't me. And we just think that's a song. But it's really reality. YouTube is no longer fun, but it is YouTube. And for what I came for, I just have to keep moving forward. I came to help uplift fallen humanity, using my knowledge, my wisdom, my humor, my cussing, my tenacity, all of me. And that's what I do. So we're on chapter 6. And chapter 6 talks about sometimes the bruises are on the outside too. Chapter 5 was the bruises are on the inside. But now we're going to talk about the physical abusers. Last week it was the verbal abusers. And we're talking about, remember, toxic parents. Everybody may not have had a toxic parent. Some of us may have had a toxic parent and don't know what that means. But this book defines it very well through Dr. Susan Forward and her patients. And she gives us cases that she worked with. And if you can relate to it, identify to it, then, maybe you can go back and listen, take some notes, and do some things a little differently. Perhaps you want to even consider going to therapy. I think it's very instrumental for adults to go to therapy, because one of the things I've found in my adult life, we all claim to be mature adults, but most of us don't know how to have adult conversations. And we do know that conversation rules the nation. And to speak with one another in a respectful manner, but we're not always doing that. So I think that it is beneficial for some. Really, I think all, but we know it's not all of nothing. So for some, if they would consider, and not only consider, but take the step and give therapy a try. Here we go. I find I get angry at myself all the time, and sometimes I cry for no reason at all. It's probably my frustration at myself. I keep thinking how my parents hurt and humiliated me. I don't keep friends for very long. I have a pattern of cutting off whole groups of friends at a time. I guess I don't want them to find out how bad I am. Kate, 40, a blonde, stern-faced quality control manager for a large corporation, came to see me at the recommendation of her family physician. She had been having panic attacks in her car and in the elevator of the building where she worked. Her physician had prescribed tranquilizers, but was concerned about Kate's aversion to leaving her apartment except to go to work. He urged her to seek psychological help. The first thing I noticed about Kate was that her severe, unhappy expression seemed molded onto her face, as if she had never learned to smile. It didn't take me long to discover why. I was raised in an upper-class suburb outside of St. Louis. We had everything money could buy. From the outside, we looked like this perfect family. But from the inside, my father would go into these crazy rages. They usually came after he had a fight with my mother. He would just turn on whichever of us was closest. He would take off his belt and start strapping me or my sister across our legs, on our heads, anywhere he could hit us. When he'd start in, I'd always have this fear that he wouldn't stop. Hi, so Alicia, glad to see you. Kate's depression and fear were the legacy of a battered child. The all-American crime. Inside millions of American households, ranging across all socio-economic and educational, and educational lines, a terrible crime is being committed every day: the physical abuse of children. There is a great deal of controversy and confusion over the definition of physical abuse. Many people still believe that parents have not only the right, but the responsibility to use corporal punishment on their children. The most common parenting motto in the English language is spare the rod and spoil the child. Until recently, children had virtually no legal rights. They were widely viewed as chattel, pieces of property that were owned by their parents. For hundreds of years, parental rights were considered inviolate in the name of discipline. Parents could do just about anything to their children, short of killing them. Today, our moms have narrowed. The problem of physical child abuse has become so widespread that public recognition has forced our legal system to set limits on physical discipline. In an attempt to clarify what constitutes physical abuse, Congress enacted the Federal Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act of 1974. This act defined physical abuse as the infliction of physical injuries such as bruises, burns, welts, cuts, bone and skull fractures. These are caused by kicking, punching, biting, beating, knifing, stabbing, strapping, paddling, etc. How this definition translates into law is often a matter of interpretation. Every state has its own child abuse laws, and most embody definitions similar to the federal one, which is somewhat vague in its scope. A child with a broken bone has clearly been abused, but most prosecutors would be reluctant to press charges against a parent who had bruised the child during the spanking. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a cop, but for more than 20 years, I've seen the suffering that legal corporal punishment can create. I have my own definition of physical abuse. Any behavior that inflicts significant physical pain on a child, regardless of whether it leaves marks. Why do parents beat their kids? Most of us who have children have felt the urge to strike them at one time or another. These feelings can be especially strong when a child won't stop crying, nagging, or defying us. Sometimes it has less to do with the child's behavior than with our own exhaustion, stress level, anxiety, or unhappiness. A lot of us manage to resist the impulse to hit our children. Unfortunately, many parents are not so restrained. We can only speculate why, but physically abusive parents seem to share certain characteristics. First, they have an appalling lack of impulse control. Physically abusive parents will assault their children whenever they have strong negative feelings that they need to discharge. These parents seem to have little, if any, awareness of the consequences of what they are doing to their children. It is almost an automatic reaction to stress. The impulse and the action are one and the same. Physical abusers themselves often come from families in which abuse was the norm. Much of their adult behavior is a direct repetition of what they experienced and learned in their youth. Their role model was an abuser. Violence was the only tool they learned to use in dealing with problems and feelings, especially feelings of anger. Many physically abusive parents enter adulthood with tremendous emotional deficits and unmet needs. Emotionally, they are still children. They often look upon their own children as surrogate parents to fulfill the emotional needs that their real parents never fulfilled. The abuser becomes enraged when his child can't meet his needs. He lashes out. At that moment, the child is more of a surrogate parent than ever because it is the abuser's parent at whom the abuser is truly enraged. Many of these parents also have problems with alcohol or drugs. Substance abuse is a frequent contributor to the breakdown of impulse control, though by no means is it the only one. There are many types of physical abusers, but at the darkest end of the spectrum are those who have children, seemingly for the sole purpose of brutalizing them. Many of these people look, talk, and act just like human beings, but they are monsters, totally devoid of the feelings and characteristics that give most of us our humanity. These people defy comprehension. There is no logic to their behavior. And let me see what Phyllis and Alicia are saying. Alicia said emotional abuse is awful. Yeah, it is. We went over that the other day. So go and check out chapter 5. She gave some good examples. Phyllis say, well, you cannot let your child run over you, but you should not just beat a child until it's harmed. Alicia said, it's easy to repeat what you learn. You have to break the curse. And Phyllis said, ditto, so true. And Phyllis said, I think that verbal abuse is the worst. And Ass is speaking. And Phyllis says, words can hurt and hurt. Yeah, they have the ability to keep on hurting because we have the ability to keep repeating them in our heads. The private Holocaust, there's no escape. Kate's father was a well-respected banker, a churchgoer, a family man. Hardly the type most people would imagine when they hear the phrase child abuser. Hi, Mercy T. Glad you're here. Good to see you. But Kate didn't live in an imagined reality. She lived in a real nightmare. My sister and I started locking our door at night because we were so scared. I'll never forget this one time when I was 11. She was 9. We were hiding under our beds, and he kept banging on the door. I've never been so scared in my life. Then all of a sudden, he came crashing through the door, like in the movies. It was terrifying. The door just flew into the room. We tried to run, but he grabbed us both and threw us in the corner and started beating at us with his belt. He kept shouting, I'll kill you if you ever lock me out again. I thought he was going to kill us right then and there. The climate of terror that Kate described permeates the home of physically abused children. Even in quiet moments, these children live in fear that the volcano of rage will erupt at any moment. And when it does, anything the victim does to fend off the blows only outrages the abuser more. Kate's desperate attempts to protect herself by hiding under her bed and locking the door only intensified her father's irrational behavior. There is no safe place to hide, no escape from the abuser, and no protector to run to. You never know when it's going to happen. I first met Joe, 27, at a seminar I was conducting at a graduate school of psychology where he was studying for his master's degree. I mentioned in my presentation that I was writing a book on toxic parents. Joe sought me out at the lunch break and volunteered to be a case study for my book. I had more than enough material from my practice, but something in this young man's voice told me he needed to talk to someone. We met the following day and talked for several hours. I was impressed not only by his openness and candor, but by the sincerity of his desire to use his painful experiences to help others. I was always getting knocked around in my bedroom. I don't even remember for what for. I could be doing anything and my father would burst in and start screaming and yelling at the top of his lungs. The next thing I knew, he'd start punching me until he'd have me up against the wall. He'd keep pounding me so hard that I'd be dazed and didn't know what the hell was going on anymore. The scariest part of it was not ever knowing what would provoke his outburst. Joe spent much of his childhood waiting for the tidal wave of his father's rage and knowing there was no way to avoid it. The experience generated powerful, lifelong fears of being hurt and betrayed. 2 marriages ended in divorce because he couldn't learn to trust. It just doesn't go away because you move out or get married. I'm always afraid of something, and I hate myself for it. But if your father, who is supposed to love you and take care of you, treated you this way, then what the hell is going to happen to you in the real world? I've screwed up a lot of relationships because I can't let anyone get too close. I'm so ashamed of myself for that. And I'm so ashamed of myself for being so damn frightened all the time. But life just scares the hell out of me. I'm really working hard in my own therapy to get on top of this stuff because I know I'm not going to be of much use to myself or anybody else until I do. But holy Christ, it's a struggle. It is tremendously difficult to regain feelings of trust and safety once they have been trampled by parents. All of us develop our expectations about how people would treat us based on our relationships with our parents. If those relationships are, for the most part, emotionally nourishing, respectful of our rights and feelings, we'll grow up expecting others to treat us in much the same way. These positive expectations allow us to be relatively vulnerable and open in our adult relationships. But if, as in Joe's case, childhood is a time of unrelenting anxiety, tension, and pain, then we develop negative expectations and rigid defenses. Joe expected the worst of others. He expected to be hurt and mistreated as he was in his childhood. So he encased himself in a suit of emotional armor. He wouldn't let anyone get close to him. Unfortunately, that suit of armor proved to be more of an emotional prison than a protection. So Alicia said, I remember with abuse one day when the fear changed and rage stepped in. I used to argue as my as my fight because I was a nervous and fearful child. But one day something clicked and I was different. Billy said these toxic parents are real and most people are living in that craziness. Mercy T said, yes, toxic parents are real. And some parents unknowingly is toxic to their kids and not even aware of it. It's crazy. And that's what I find to be true, Mercy, is that most of us, because as you read some of this stuff, you may not have practiced this or this may not have happened to you, but some of these things are very subtle. The abuse, as we're speaking on the physical abuser, is obvious. And pretty much all of us got whoopings when we were young. Some people didn't, but the majority of us did. And so when we look back and think back at some of the whoopings we had to endure, we probably would have definitely been ready to call the police if we were not afraid for our lives, because our parents put it in us to be afraid for your lives. Even if you didn't get a whooping, sometimes just a look or a tone of voice had you so fearful you didn't know what to think or what to do. But I think it's indicative of what we see here on this metaverse, that many people throughout the world have been victims of children of toxic parents. And if you hear, as Dr. Forward write it out and explain it. And nowhere, other than her talking about the monsters, does she imply that, all these people are bad people. Pretty much it's learned behavior. And perhaps that's the way their parents did them. And so, you live what you learn. And a lot of people don't understand. And that's one of the reasons we don't have a good way to communicate one with another, is because people don't hear what you mean. They hear what you say. And sometimes the things that we let come out of our mouths, we totally mean something totally different in a different frame of reference. We may be meaning it in love, but it may sound like we're angry. And so the person who's interpreting it, they only hear whatever that word is that may put them in a space where they can't hear anything else you're saying. They may just hear that one word. And I know that's true for me sometimes. So I just believe I'm not the only human being that have human experiences. I believe when it is written that there is nothing, and they use the word sin. I don't use that word. But there is nothing that overcomes you that's not common to man, that you're not provided a way of escape. So what that tells me is we all have human experiences, and we all pretty much experience the same thing. But we deal with it differently if we choose to, because a way of escape is provided. And then we have to take it upon ourselves to find that way if it doesn't come to you automatically. Let me see. Where am I? Hi, Sucker Free. Glad you're here. Good to see you. I was at So Alicia. I would be so calm and then be on 100 so quickly. It was debilitating, always followed by guilt and remorse. And you know what, Alicia, I believe that because I think most of us are like that. To me, especially children that grew up during my time period, that are now what they're calling the baby boomers, that's 64, 65 and older, because we grew up in a time when we were not even able to express feelings and emotions, and that's not for everybody. So whenever I speak in generalities, I'm only speaking in general, not for every household, because we always know there are exceptions to the rules and there are exceptions to the way things happen. But as a nation of people growing up as families, we all pretty much share the same customs and the same culture, and we all pretty much have the same ideas and ideologies, and that's what makes you a nation of people. And you have like food, like clothing, like conversation, and you can talk about any ghetto, urban ghetto of Asiatic people in any major city, and we all can pretty much tell the same story about having to be in before the lights go down on the street, and about getting a whooping, the instruments that our parents used to whoop us with, about drinking Kool-Aid in the big mason jars. We all pretty much have the same conversation because we all pretty much have the same training. And it is a training. It was a lifestyle. And we all did pretty much the same thing. You probably could talk to people and find out that during the week they probably had real decent meals. Either the mother cooked it or the oldest child, be it a boy or a girl. Today, none of our children know how to cook, let alone talking about our boys. But, our parents used to teach the boys and the girls, and they had to get in there and get it because the parents had to work. But we ate real meals through the week. You had your starch, you had your vegetables, you had your meat, you had your bread, And of course, like I said, most of us had Kool-Aid. There may have been some that were fortunate enough to have sodas, and some people call it soda water. That's what we call it here down south. Um, Polly Pop, that's Kool-Aid. But we all can tell the same stories. And come Friday, pretty much in every household in the hood, there was going to be some fish being fried and a salad and some french fries was coming. And back in the day when I was growing up, we didn't have a choice of Hidden Valley and Kraft Catalina. We had to get the mayonnaise, and the mayonnaise back then was called salad dressing, best made. And you put the lettuce, tomatoes, and onions in a bowl after you washed them and cut them up, and then you put the big old clunk of salad dressing in there, and that was your dressing on your salad. You didn't get to choose Italian and all of the the salad dressings that they have today. And then that Saturday, you had probably cold cuts, is what we used to call them, sandwiches. You had, in our household, we had bologna, salami, and pressed ham. And then we had cheese, and we had lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pickles. And during those times when we got to eat potato chips, because potato chips was not an everyday staple in the home. Cookies and stuff like that wasn't everyday staples. They came. And then on Sundays, most people, dinner started Saturday night because, everybody went to church Sunday. And by the time you made it home, you just put the food in there and warm it up. And we used to always have roast with potatoes and carrots around it, and greens, and macaroni and cheese, or potato salad, cornbread. That was kind of like, and you can talk to almost everybody you know. Maybe you might have meatloaf one Sunday with mashed potatoes and cabbage, corn. But if you talk to a lot of people, we all had the same kind of meals. And that's culture. And that's what customs are all about. Today, we don't know any of that because hardly anybody cook anymore. And the children have no knowledge of cooking unless they're playing a game. Our children are so caught up into the games. They're building houses. Used to be men taught their sons how to fix things. And if there was not a father in your household, the man of the street was the father. And he taught. All the fellas hung out at his house. And, he would talk to them and things. But we don't see a lot of that anymore. Not at all. So Alicia says, very true, Toothless. It is a lifestyle. Kool-Aid, we love it. Yep. It is a year we had Kool-Aid, red drink. So Alicia say, I remember salad dressing. I never even knew there was a difference between Miracle Whip mayo, like Hellman's, yes, and salad dressing. It is, until I got older. Yes, I know that's real. The salad dressing was nasty mixed with the lettuce. Back then was high stepping. Alicia said, but there was something distinctive about the salad dressing taste. Yeah, it was. And it was a lot of oil. It's oilier too. It was much oilier than, your Hellman's or your Miracle Whip. I think that was one of the reasons Miracle Whip had the whip-like to it to take some of the oil out of it. Well, the kids go out and eat, or Uber Eats. That's true. Or DoorDash today. So we're going back to, I've got so many problems. No wonder I let you have it. And that's basically coming from the parents' vein, is what that topic is. Joe never understood what set his father off. Other abusers have the need to be understood. They beat their children, then beg them to understand, even ask for their forgiveness. That's how it was for Kate. I remember one particular terrible evening after dinner when my mother was out shopping. My father was really giving it to me with that damn belt. I was screaming so loud that one of our neighbors called the police, but my father managed to convince them that everything was fine. He told the cops that the noise was coming from the TV, and they bought it. I'm standing there with tears streaming down my face and welts on my arms, but they still bought it. Why shouldn't they? My father was one of the most powerful men in the city, but at least they calmed him down. After they left, he told me he'd been under a lot of stress lately. I didn't even know what stress meant, but he really wanted me to understand what he was going through. He told me that my mother wasn't nice to him anymore, that she wouldn't sleep with him, and it wasn't right for a wife not to sleep with her husband. That was why he was so upset all the time. Kate's father revealed inappropriate, intimate information to a child who was too young to understand. Yet he expected her to nurture him emotionally. This role reversal confused and bewildered Kate, but it is common among abusive parents. They want their children to give them both relief and absolution. They batter them, then they blame their behavior on someone else. Instead of dealing directly with his marital problems, Kate's father displaced his fury and sexual frustration onto his daughters, then rationalized his violence by blaming his wife. Physical violence against children is often a reaction to stress at work, conflict with another family member or friend, or general tension over an unsatisfying life. Children are easy targets. They can't fight back, and they can be intimidated into silence. Unfortunately for both the abuser and the victim, displacing anger gives the abuser only temporary relief. The true source of his rage remains unchanged and destined to build up again. And sadly, the helpless target of his rage remains as well, destined to soak up that rage and carry it into adulthood. I'm doing this for your own good. Other abusers, instead of blaming someone else for their behavior, will try to justify it as being in the child's best interest. Many parents still believe that physical punishment is the only effective way to drive home a moral or behavioral point. Many of these lessons are delivered in the name of religion. Never has a book been so sorely misused as the Bible to justify beatings. I was appalled by a letter that appeared in Ann Landers' syndicated column. It reads, "Dear Ann Landers, I was disappointed in your response to the girl whose mother used to strap her. The gym teacher noticed the bruises on her legs and backside and called it child abuse. Why are you against strapping a child when the Bible tells us in plain language that this is what parents should do? Proverbs 23:13 says, withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Proverbs 23:14 says, thou shalt beat him with the rod and shalt deliver his soul from death." These same parents often believe in the inherent maleficence of children. They believe that a harsh beating will keep a child from going bad. They say things such as, I was raised with the hickory switch, a licking now and then didn't do me any harm, or I need to put the fear of God in him, or she's got to know who's boss, or he's got to know what he's in for, so he'll toe the line. Other parents excuse beatings as necessary rites of passage, ordeals to make a child tougher, braver, or stronger. That was what Joe was led to believe. My dad's mother died when my dad was 14. He never got over it. He's still not over it. And he's going on 64. He recently told me that he was tough on me because he didn't want me to feel, because he didn't want me to feel. Sick as it was, he theorized that if you don't feel, you won't have to go through the pain of life. I, honest to God, believe he thought he was protecting me from being hurt. He didn't want me to experience the kind of pain he'd gone through with his mother's death. Hi, Iceberg. Glad you're here. Instead of making Joe tougher or less vulnerable, the beatings left him fearful and mistrustful, far less equipped to make it in the world. It's absurd to believe that severe physical punishment will have any positive effect on a child. In fact, research indicates that physical discipline is not particularly effective as a punishment, even for specific undesirable behaviors. Beatings have proved to be only temporary deterrents, and they create in children strong feelings of rage, revenge fantasies, and self-hatred. It's quite clear that the mental, emotional, and often bodily harm caused by physical abuse far outweighs any momentary advantages. The passive abuser. So far, I have focused almost entirely on the actively abusive parent. But there's another player in the family drama who must share some of the responsibility. This is the parent who permits the abuse to happen out of his or her own fears, dependency, or need to maintain the family status quo. This parent is the passive abuser. I asked Joe what his mother was doing while he was being battered. She wasn't doing much of anything. Sometimes she just locked herself in the bathroom. I always wondered why she didn't stop this crazy bastard from knocking the hell out of me all of the time. But I guess she was too scared herself. It just wasn't in her nature to confront him. See, my dad is Christian and my mom is Jewish. She was raised in a very poor Orthodox family. And where she came from, women don't tell their men what to do. I guess she was thankful that she had a roof over her head and that her husband made a nice living. Joe's mother did not beat her children herself, but because she did not protect them from her husband's brutality, she became a partner in their abuse. Instead of taking steps to defend her children, she became a frightened child herself, helpless and passive in the face of her husband's violence. In effect, she abandoned her son. In addition to feeling isolated and unprotected, Joe found himself saddled with an overwhelming responsibility. I remember when I was about 10 years old and my dad had beaten the hell out of my mother one night. I got up really early the next morning and I was waiting in the kitchen when he came down in his bathrobe. He asked me what was I doing up so early. I was scared shitless, but I said, if you ever beat up on mom again, I'm going to come after you with a baseball bat. He just looked at me and laughed. Then he went upstairs to take a shower and to go to work. Joe had made a classic abused child role reversal, assuming responsibility for protecting his mother as if he were the parent and she was the child. By allowing herself or himself to be overwhelmed by helplessness, the inactive parent can more easily deny her silent complicity in the abuse. And by becoming protective or by rationalizing the silent parent's inactivity, the abused child can more easily deny the fact that both parents have failed him. Kate is a case in point. When my father first started beating us, my sister and I would always scream for mom to help, but she never came. She just sat downstairs and listened to us screaming for her. It didn't take us long to realize she wasn't coming. She never stood up to my father. I guess she couldn't help it. No matter how many times I hear statements like, I guess she couldn't help it, they still upset me. Kate's mother could have helped it. I told Kate that it was important for her to start looking at her mother's role realistically. Her mother should have stood up to Kate's father, or if she was afraid of him, she should have called the police. There is no excuse for a parent to stand by and allow his and her children to be brutalized. In both Kate's and Joe's cases, the father was the active abuser and the mother was the silent partner. However, this is by no means the only family scenario. In some families, the mother is the active abuser and the father is the passive one. The sexes may change, but the dynamics of passive abuse remain the same. I have had clients where both parents were abusive, but the abusive passive parent combination is far more common. Many adult children excuse the passive parent because they see that parent as a co-victim. In Joe's case, this view was intensified because he was in a role reversal in which he felt protective of his mother. For Terry, a 43-year-old marketing rep, the situation was further confused when his passive parent became the sympathetic comforter. Terry, who had been physically abused by his mother through most of his childhood, idolized his ineffectual father. I was a very sensitive kid, more into art and music than sports. My mother always called me a sissy. She got angry with me a little and would beat me with anything she could find. It seems like I spent most of my childhood hiding in closets. I was never sure why she beat me so much, but everything I did, it seemed to piss her off. I feel like she wiped out my whole childhood. I asked Terry what his father was doing while his mother was terrorizing him. Lots of times my dad would hold me while I was sobbing, and he'd tell me how sorry he was about my mother's fits. He always said there was nothing he could do about it, and that if I tried harder, things might go better for me. My dad was really a nice guy. He worked very hard so his family could live well. He gave me the only real consistent love I got when I was little. I asked Terry if since he has become an adult, he has talked to his father about his childhood. I've tried a couple of times, but he always says, let bygones be bygones. Anyway, what's the point of upsetting him? My problems are with my mother, not with him. I see, so Alicia and Phyllis said something. Phyllis said, that parent is going alone to get along. How sad for these poor children. I say hit the road, Jack. Alicia said, my mother always protected us. There were limits. My mom was 90 pounds soaking wet and could break a grown man down. She fought verbally and physically. I learned a lot of that behavior. I'm still correcting that behavior now, every day. And that's a good thing. Terry denies his father complicity because he wanted to protect the only good childhood memories he had, those loving moments with his father. Just as he clung to his father's tenderness as a frightened child, so was he clinging to it today as a frightened adult. In trading a dark closet for a false reality, he had done nothing to face the truth. Terry was aware of how much his mother's abuse had colored his life, but far less aware of how much repressed rage he carried toward his father. Terry had spent years denying that his father had failed him. To make matters worse, his father had put much of the responsibility on Terry's head by suggesting that if Terry tried harder, he could avoid the beatings. Learning to hate yourself is all my fault. As difficult as it may be to believe, battered children accept the blame for the crimes perpetrated against them just as surely as verbally abused children do, Joe recalled. My father always told me that I wasn't worth shit. If there was some way he could hook my name to a swear word while he was beating me, he would do it. By the time he got through, I honestly believed that I was the worst thing that ever lived, and that I was only getting knocked around because I deserved it. The seeds of self-blame were planted early in Joe. How could a small child withstand this powerful propaganda about his worth? Like all abused children, Joe believed two lies: that he was bad and that he was getting beaten only because he was bad. Since these lies came from his powerful, all-knowing father, they had to be true. These lies remain unchallenged for most adults who were battered as children, including Joe, as he describes it. I'm so down on myself, I can't seem to have a good relationship with anybody. It's hard for me to believe that anybody could really care for me. Kate expressed a similar theme when she didn't want people to find out how bad she was. These pervasive feelings of low self-esteem evolve into self-loathing and create life patterns of damaged relationships, loss of confidence, feelings of inadequacy, paralyzing fears, and unfocused rage. Kate summed it up. All my life, it's been going through my mind that I don't deserve to be happy. I think that's why I never got married, never had a good relationship, never allowed myself any real success. When Kate grew up, the physical abuse ended, but through self-loathing, the emotional abuse continued, except that now she had become her own abuser. Abuse and love, a bewildering combination. Abused children are often exposed to a bizarre mixture of pleasure and pain. Joe described intermittent terror coexisting with tender moments. At times, my father could be funny, and sometimes, I swear, he was even gentle. Like this one time when I signed up for this big skiing competition, and he got really into it. So he drove me all the way to Jackson, Wyoming, which took 10 hours, just so I could practice on good snow. On the way home, Dad told me I was really special. Of course, while he's saying it, I'm thinking, if I'm so special, why do I feel so lousy about myself? But he said it. That's what counts. I'm still trying to recapture that him that we had that day. Got to be more careful. Let me see. So Alicia said it's a vicious cycle, internalizing pain. That's what happens. True that. And that only hurts you. How many women or men grew up becoming their own abusers? I bet a lot. Yeah, I would say the majority. I would say the majority. Krista said, I didn't get battered as a child, but my household was toxic. My father was a womanizer who tried to control my mom. As an adult, I told my mom I would have left him. The mixed messages only added to Joe's confusion, and they made it more difficult for him to face the truth about his father. I explained to Joe that an incredibly strong, perverse parent-child fusion occurs when a parent holds out a promise of love while at the same time mistreating that child. A child's world is very narrow, and no matter how abusive the parents will represent, the only available source of love and comfort. The battered child spends his entire childhood searching for the holy grail of parental love. That search continues into adulthood. Kate, too, remembered. When I was a baby, my father would hold me, love me, and rock me. And when I was a little older, he was always there, taking me to dance classes on the weekend or to the movies. He really loved me at one point in his life. I guess my greatest wish is for him to love me again the way he used to. The keeper of the family secret. Her father's sporadic benevolence kept Kate yearning for his love, hoping for a turnaround. This hope kept her bound to him long after she reached adulthood. As part of that bonding, she believed she had to keep secret the truth of her father's behavior. A good girl would never betray her family. The family secret is a further burden for abused children. By not talking about the abuse, the battered child cuts off any hope of emotional help. Here's Kate. All my life, I felt like I've been living in lies. It's horrible not being able to talk freely about something that affected my life so strongly. How do you get over the pain of something if you can't talk about it? Sure, I can talk about it in therapy, but I still can't talk about it to the people who held all the power over me all those years. The only person I could ever talk about it with was the maid. I felt she was the only person in the world I could trust. Once after my dad beat me, she said, Honey, your dad's very sick. I never understood why he didn't go to the hospital if he was so sick. I asked Kate what she thought would happen if she confronted her father and mother about her childhood. She stared at me for a few moments before replying. As for my father, I'm sure he'd fall apart, and then we'd be in big trouble. My mother would probably get hysterical, and my sister would be furious with me for dredging up the past. She won't even talk to me about it. Kate's allegiance to the family secret was the glue that was holding the family together. If she broke the bond of silence, the family would fall apart. All of this is just welling up inside me. Every time I'm with him, nothing ever changes. My father still gets very nasty with me. I feel like exploding and telling him how angry I am, but I sit there and bite my lip. When my father gets mad at me today, my mother pretends she doesn't hear what's going on. I was at my high school reunion a few years ago, and I felt so hypocritical. My classmates all thought I had such a great family. I thought if they only knew. I wish I could tell my parents how they ruined my high school years. I want to scream at them that they hurt me so much and I can't love anymore. I can't have a loving relationship with a man. They paralyzed me emotionally. They still do, but I'm too scared to say anything to them. The adult in Kate was crying out to confront her parents with the truth, but the battered, frightened child in Kate was too terrified of the consequences. She was convinced that everyone would hate her for letting the cat out of the bag. She believed the entire fabric of her family would unravel. As a result, her relationship with her parents had become a charade. Everyone pretended that nothing bad had ever happened. Good night, so Alicia. Kate, keeping the myth alive. I was not surprised when Kate told me that her high school classmates thought she had a great family. Many abusive families are able to present a very normal facade to the rest of the world. This apparent respectability is in direct opposition to the family's reality. Hey, Madria. It forms the basis of a family myth. Joe's family myth was typical. Joe was caught in the same terrible conflict between wanting to confront his parents and fearing that he'd rip the family apart. When he was in high school, he had written letters about how he really felt. I really poured out my heart in those letters, stuff about being beaten and ignored. Then I'd leave them out on the dresser, hoping my folks would read them, but I never knew if anyone did. No one ever said a word about them. I tried a diary for a while when I was in late teens. I left that line around too. To this day, I don't know if my folks ever read any of it. And honest to God, I'm still too terrified to ask them. It was not fear of another beating that prevented Joe from asking his parents for the letters. By high school, he was too grown up for that. But if they had read his pleas and hadn't responded emotionally, he would have to have given up his fantasy that some miracle might someday give him the key to their love. After so many years, he was still afraid to find out whether they had invalidated him yet one more time. At an emotional crossroads. Abused children have a cauldron of rage bubbling inside of them. You can't be battered, humiliated, terrified, denigrated, and blamed for your own pain without getting angry. But a battered child has no way to release this anger. In adulthood, that anger has to find an outlet. Holly, 41, a stocky, stern-faced housewife with short, prematurely gray hair, was referred to me after being reported to the Department of Social Services by a school counselor for abusing her 10-year-old son. Her son was living temporarily with her husband's parents. Even though her therapy was court mandated, she proved to be a highly motivated client. Last 2 pages. I'm so ashamed of myself. I've slapped him in the past, but this time I really went berserk. That kid makes me so damn angry. You know, I always promised myself that if I had kids, I'd never raise a hand to them. Christ, I know what that was like. It's horrible. But without even realizing it, I'm turning into that crazy mother of mine. I mean, both my folks hit me, but she was the worst. I remember one time she chased me around the kitchen with a butcher knife. Holly had a long history of acting out. That is, translating strong emotional impulses into aggressive action. As a teenager, she was in constant trouble and several times was suspended from school. As an adult, she described herself as a walking powder keg. Sometimes I have to just leave the house because I'm afraid of what I'll do to my kid. I feel like I can't control myself. How this anger exploded onto her young son. In other extreme cases, repressed anger can express itself as violent criminal behavior, ranging from wife beating to rape to murder. Our jails are filled with adults who were physically abused as children and never learned to express their anger appropriately. Kate, on the other hand, turned her anger inward. It found physical ways to express itself. No matter what anybody says or does to me, I can't ever stand up for myself. I just never feel up to it. I get headaches. I feel lousy most of the time. Everyone walks all over me, and I don't know how to stop them. Last year, I was sure I had an ulcer. I had stomach aches all the time. Kate learned to be a victim early in her life and never stopped. She had no idea how to protect herself from being used or victimized by others. In this way, she perpetuated the pain she had experienced as a child. Not unexpectedly, her enormous accumulated rage had to find a way out. But since she was afraid to express it directly, her body and her moods expressed it for her in the form of headaches, a knotted up stomach, and depression. Like father, in some cases, the abused child unconsciously identifies with his abusive parent. After all, the abuser looks powerful and invulnerable. Victimized children fantasize that if they possessed these qualities, they would be able to protect themselves. So, as an unconscious defense, they develop some of the very personality traits that they most hate in their toxic parent. Despite fervent promises to themselves to be different, under stress, they may behave exactly like their abusers. But this syndrome is not as widespread as most people assume. For many years, it was commonly believed that almost all better children became battering parents. After all, this was the only role model they had. But current studies challenge these assumptions. In fact, not only have a good many formerly abused children grown into non-abusing adults, but a number of these parents have great difficulty with even modest, non-physical methods of disciplining their children. These parents shy away both from setting limits and from enforcing them. This too can have a negative impact on a child's development because children need the security of boundaries. But the harm done by over permissiveness is usually far less significant than the damage done by a batterer. The good news is that the adult victims of the abusive parents can overcome their self-loathing, fusion to their parents, unresolved anger, overwhelming fears, and inability to trust or to feel safe. That is the end of our 6th chapter, physical abuse. Now, if anybody would like to come up, you can let me know and I'll drop the link if you want to discuss any of this or anything. Or if anybody have a question, or if you want to talk about it, then let me know. I see Asatar told Alicia good night. I'm here listening, getting my butt kicked by my 7-year-old in FIFA 2023 video game. Just lost 5-2. Oh, poor ass. Is that a soccer game or is that some other kind of game? What kind of game is that? Anybody have any statements they want to make about the abusive parents? Anything you want to add to the conversation? I know that it's people that watch the show and people that are afraid to type into the chats these days, especially when you're a content creator that's under attack constantly. And the things that these people do in this sector, as far as the doxing, and nobody wants to go through that craziness. So don't think that I feel bad if you guys don't choose to write into the chat or be visible in the chat. I greatly appreciate the views, and it means a lot. Oh no, Maria, I already said you were probably asleep, and I wasn't not going to wake you up because you needed your rest. So that ain't nothing you ever got to worry about. Here, I refuse to dial your number because when I seen you wasn't there 5 minutes before, I felt like you were asleep. And anybody work as hard as you needs to sleep as much as you can. So it's real all right with me. I told them already, whenever she wake up, she'll be here. Excuse me. But I know you, Maria. So now you needed that rest. And I'm glad you were able to get it. But, with the craziness that goes on, it's really hard for people to support. And I know that you see some of these same people in other people's chats. That doesn't bother me either. For the simple reason is we choose to live, if you're like me, protecting as much of your peace, as much of your heart, and as much of your sanity as you can. That's what you do. And so, I've often said, if I have to get on here and talk to one person, that's what I'm willing to do. That's why I love you too, my Maria. You're all about Maria. Yeah, you got to get your rest, baby girl. I see what you do. And you're awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I should be paying you hard as you work. Faithfully, no complaints. And it makes my heart proud. But, like I said, I would talk if it was just me and Maria, me and Asatar, me and me. I would just have to sit here. I don't know what the hell I would be saying, but I know I'd be sitting here saying something. Because really, it's something to say always. The love that I receive means a lot to me. And not because I have a lack of love in my life, but to imagine going on a platform, knowing nobody, capturing an audience, going from 3 people to 1,400 people. That is amazing to me and an awesome feeling. And to maintain that through a whole year of adversity, being called everything but a child of the Creator. And it's okay. It's real all right. You have people that just come after you and they don't even know you, don't even have a reason to be at you, but they be at you. And you live with that anyway. So I don't have a problem. It's a feeling that you get as a human of sadness, but I don't have a problem with people not showing their faces by typing in the chat, because it is a horrible thing to be doxxed. And then, what's so sad about it, people complain about different people doxing, but they fail to recognize or acknowledge that, other people started doing this stuff, and we're just not going to take it. And we're not going to take it as individuals. We don't work in groups, but we work together to support one another. That's what it's all about. Working together. So it seems like that doesn't happen, but I can guarantee you that it does, and especially on my part. I just believe it's enough sky out here for everybody. Everybody's star can shine. I don't know why it's so much jealousy and envy, but then I go back to this book, Toxic Parents. And when you look at the toxic parents, and a lot of us say that we don't like the atmosphere of today, but we really do. We really like the drama, and we really want to know what's next and who said what and who did what. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of human nature as well. I just say to thine own self, be true. And if you're true to yourself, you'll be true to everybody. There's nothing wrong with being an adult and making your own decisions, going where you want to go. But on social media, you do learn that there are rules to going where you want to go and saying what you want to say. You can become vulnerable to a lot of things. And that you don't have to become vulnerable to, by all means, don't subject yourself to it. It's not worth it. I know we think that we can say what we want to say because of freedom of speech. In all honesty, we have the right to speak freely. But when you have envious and jealous-hearted people like you have on this app, and they found that talking about and degrading one person gets them donations, then you too could be the next subject matter. And so you have to be careful. I mean, sometimes just saying hello can get you doxxed. And what was so sad for me to find out, a lot of people are not aware of, because if you were as new to YouTube as I was when I came on 2 years ago, and that is just supporting people, sending them cash apps, super chats, things of that nature can get you doxxed, especially cash apps, because a lot of us have our cash apps hooked up to institutions that bear our government names. And we may have all these cute little sweet names for YouTube, but when you support someone and you think that you're supporting them, but these people have no content unless they're degrading each other. On Sister T's chat last night, it was a young lady came on, and her name was Indiana Mom, and she's from Indiana, and she went to school there, and she met her husband, who is a European male, and she's an Asiatic woman. And then she shared with us that she's also on moderator for several different platforms. And she told us about one, and his name was Roadrunner Networking. And so after she left Sister T's, we were going off air, and she said that he was going live. So a few of us went over there, and he was a nice gentleman. He is a European man married to an Asiatic woman. So she has an Asiatic husband, and he has an Asiatic wife. And they met, I don't know when, but they both married the same year. They've been married 29 years. They both have 3 children, and they have a lot in common. And I listened to them for a while. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if I can listen to that every day, because it's so much emphasis on us, and it's so much disparity amongst us. And I don't know how I actually feel about that, although it was very upbeat and uplifting. As an Asiatic female, woman, mother, matriarch, I just don't know how I feel about that. But I definitely support I support his personality, his sincerity, and his honesty. I support that. We got to find different things to take our mind from the craziness sometimes. Sometimes people have to leave YouTube for a minute to readjust, especially it's according to where you are in the craziness. But I'm just crazy enough to believe it ain't nothing they can do or say that will run me away from me. Because I'm of the opinion, anywhere you go, you take you with you. And if you don't know you, then you can allow someone to break you. But if you know who you are and you understand why people say what they say and do what they do, I've been envied my whole life and didn't understand why. I wasn't, to the world, the prettiest girl in the room, or the finest, with the whitest of teeth, with the longest of hair. Although I've had all of those things, I have. But it was me, what's inside of me, and what comes out of me, and what I give of me. And when I walk in a room, I light up a room. I don't dim it. And when other people see that in you, if you don't know you possess the it factor, then you'll let this little stupid stuff that they're saying about you, the craziness. I heard that some gentleman said something so grotesque about myself and my brother. It is unbelievable the stuff that this man lets come out of his mouth. And those people will clap and cash out and whoop-de-doo and whoop-de-woo and woo-woo-woo. Well, we're kind of reading and hearing why some of these people find it so fascinating and why they would put it. Oh, wisdom. Wisdom is a poem that was written for me. And it's absolutely, absolutely beautiful. I cannot read that poem aloud. But one day, I'm going to ask the poet to come and read it for me. It brings me to tears. It's awesome. It's given to me by poet Maria. And she's awesome, awesome, awesome. And it's every bit true essence of who I am. And that's what she sees. And it's absolutely beautiful. So that's what I live with, who I am and what I bring to the table. I can't worry about what these other people have and what they bring. My mama taught all of her children, never envy anybody for what they have. So I can't envy nobody with 65,000 people and it ain't number 2 people in there. I can't envy that. I can't envy a woman that looks like a man and sounds like a billy goat talking about me and they don't know anything about me. I can't envy those things. The only thing I can do is continue to walk in the honor and dignity of who I am. And I will do that. You know, I have another channel. I don't know if y'all are aware of it. I actually cut my first video after hearing a woman talk about me so ugly. And the woman certainly do not know me. And they call me a federale as if we're in Mexico. You know, this stuff is so funny to these people. They don't even know what they'll be talking about half the time. But I am a retired federal officer of the court. And a lot of people don't know what that means, so they laugh. When I say of the court, meaning my word in my federal capacity, I am an expert in a courtroom. And I can sit on a witness stand and testify for the government of the United States of America. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? According to how you view your government. But I have the capacity to do that. So therefore, I am an officer of the court. I was the person that paid you a visit when you cheated the PPP loan people. and you received money from the government. And although you paid it back, you could still have an issue. Now, not with me, because I only collected taxes for the government. Big or small, I collected them all. Didn't matter how big or how little your business was. That's what I did for a living for almost 15 years before I retired, 12 years ago. I hear these people cracking jokes on me, and they tell me that I get SSI. That is so amazing and funny to me. I don't know what state they live in, but I doubt if I get SSI. Although I do get 2 checks, Office of Personnel Management and Social Security. I earned that. 42 years I worked on public jobs, in public service. So my whole life has been service to others. The things I do for people on a daily basis, most of you couldn't stand it in a year. You couldn't do what I do. So I don't envy anybody who can get on here and lie and talk about me in the manner in which they talk about me as a predator. And then they have a real live predator. Where's your paperwork, predator? And they deny what they see. That, to me, is asinine. It is so disheartening to know people call me a predator. And listen to a man that say the nastiest, grotesque things about people that used to support him. You got to be careful who you support. And some people say they would have never supported him. Whoop-de-doo, I'm glad you wouldn't have. But I did. I supported all of, it looks like, the perverted men that projects their perversion onto us. I supported KB. I supported AB. I supported Skin Knee. I supported those people. I did not support Damn D, but I have looked at 1 or 2 of his videos. I couldn't take his antics, so I could not watch him. But I supported people that you honestly give your money to, however you receive it, just to have them turn on you. And if they don't attack you personally, KB, they'll allow their family members and their chats, these YouTube cult gangs, to attack you. And these people work in a cult-like atmosphere. And then they say, nobody wants to come to you, lady, because you're not funny. Everything in life is not funny. Some things you need to know that's not funny. Some things in life you need to learn in order to keep living life. No matter how you get, how far you get, if you keep living, you're going to want to get further. That's what you're going to want to do. Whether you do that or not, I don't know. But I know everybody has a desire. Well, I can't say that. The majority of us have a desire to be better, to do better, to treat people right. I would say that's the majority of human nature. But there is a percentage of us who cares nothing about you as a human being. You're just a commodity, a dollar for them. And they will take your money and stab you in your heart. They won't even wait until you turn your back. They have paraded up and down these YouTube streets, singing and waving the banner of the predators. Uncle Suge, Ears. And then I only heard this one man call me a predator. But all of his chat, they, I guess, honor what he says because they give him money for doing it. You know, Krista said, yep, I definitely move around on these YouTube streets because boy, oh boy. And Maria said, yep, we try to be better. We really do the best that we can. But you have people, 1 minute they're friends, boy, they're so close. And you know, you feel the love you think through the computer. And the next minute, they're cutting you right in the front. Just like it's Valentine's Day. They're carving your heart out your chest. They're disrespecting you, calling you all kind of names. And for me, all of the cult members and the gang members that was there that are no longer there, and the ones that are still there, everybody talks about everybody getting mistreated that didn't do anything except for Toothless. I'm always the exception. And you know what? I've been the exception my whole life, so that's nothing new. But see, when I can walk in integrity and honor and truth, I'm not going to leave my camera on because, like I said, I don't feel good and I have to blow my nose and stuff, but I just need y'all to just see me and know that I am still here. When you walk in who you are, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's painful. And I don't listen to it, but people I know listen to it. People that love me listen to it. And it hurts them. And they don't want to tell me, but they know I am who I am, so they will tell me because they know I would want to know if they heard it. It's a beautiful thing to know who you are and not to have to depend on other people. You know, some of these people, they saw one or two little YouTube chicks and they got arrogant and quit their jobs. Some of them never had jobs. They've been conning people ever since Facebook. They go from one extreme to another. They go from one platform to another. They run from this one to that one. But it all is going to end up the same. You see, one thing I know, that if you believe in a thing called the devil, then, you know, if it's such a person, don't you think he honor his children just like the one that you believe in called the God? Yeah. A lot of people's priorities are messed up. We need to be working together as families. We need to be learning how to plant food. Iceberg Thoughts, Sister T, have two of the most beautiful gardens I know. Farmer Nancy has a whole farm, an urban farm in Austin, Texas, in the heart of the capital city of the state of Texas. That's history. You can Google her. Iceberg does morning inspirations as well as show us how to plant. My daddy used to teach us to do things while you were yet able, because the time is going to come when you're not going to be able to do. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to have money. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to have help. But without your help, there's not much you can do. I can attest to that. And people laugh and make fun of me. Somebody told me they needed to start a GoFundMe page for me to get some cigarettes. I told them just send me a cash app. That's all they got to do. I ain't got to do no GoFundMe. If they want me to have some cool Filter Kings, I like the soft pack. And that's the green pack of the shorts. They call Filter Kings. You don't have to do no GoFundMe if you just want me to have a pack of cigarettes. You know, some people can't stomach the idea that, you mean you smoke cigarettes and you say you got a heart problem? Yeah. I had an addiction to cigarettes way before I found out about my heart problem. I quit smoking cigarettes for years at a time and always start back. So apparently, to me, I wasn't ready to quit. Although I quit for 4 years, for 2 years, for 18 months. I can do that. No problem. But I think we need to learn to live in our truth. There's a lot of disingenuous and dishonest people on YouTube. I was in the Black Rabbit this morning, and he was saying some good stuff. I'm really glad that he took that time away and came back, because right before he left, he too had bought into the craziness, but he has all but made it up with his assessment of what's going on. Not necessarily because he agreed with me, but how can two walk together except they agree? And how can you not agree when you see the same thing? I know people see it from their perspective, but there are also absolute things that you measure by. And if you don't use your mind, my daddy taught us, then someone will take your mind and use it against you. And a lot of people, because I am a kindness person, and I am the type of person that believes in allowing you to be who you say you are until you show me different, they think that that's a foolish person. But I am by no wise a foolish person. By no wise. No stretch of the imagination. Not at all. But I am so saddened that we have a predator among us, a real life predator who committed a crime in 2 different states. He keeps confusing the issue. And some people that I have much respect for are relying on someone else's take on what the truth is, when the truth is written on the paper that has been authenticated and shown. This man is a registered offender on the Virginia Register. And I remember, especially Armando Black, really, I heard he's been talking real ugly and nasty about myself and Asatar. You know, some of you people, Escof, Yapai, Alpha Buckeyes, you know, y'all got a little sense and you kind of beginning to see it's something wrong with this. As long as they was playing in a pool that y'all didn't mind playing in, and that was laughing and paying and talking about me, that was okay. But you might ought to just really ask yourself the type of stuff that the man who called himself skinny let come out of his mouth and talking about doing to children and talking about me doing to my brother or my brother doing to me. That stuff is really sick and demented. And the fact that he has people over there giving to make the haters, I'm trying to figure out what hater is mad. He got to beg y'all for money. He got to drink and get drunk for y'all money. He has to do all of that for y'all money. I don't even have to wake up for my money. It's deposited in my account every 3rd and every 1st of every month. unless they fall on the weekend. Then I'm going to get it either the Friday before or the Monday after the Sunday. It's just according to how they fall. I don't live bad. And I didn't come here begging for nothing. I was told if you do what you love, you'll never work again. So although this is a part-time job for me, and I say that because they give us a 1099. And a 1099 is a miscellaneous form that they will report the money that they give us. It's up to us whether we report it or not. And if you don't report it, then you're not following the tax law. Everybody doesn't have to file a federal tax return. But there are special taxes and special situations when you must file a federal tax return. Anytime you receive over $400 net from anything that you do for someone else, you have a requirement to file, whether you file or not. Look up in the publication 17. Whether you file or not, whether you are an LLC, whether you are a S corporation, whether you are a sole proprietor, whether you are just somebody going around picking up cans and bottles. That's a federal requirement for all 50 states. Some states pay state taxes. My great state of Texas does not. So I don't know what your state tax requirement is. But a 1099 miscellaneous, and if it's over $400 net that you received, then you have a requirement to file. Hi, Simba. Glad you're here. So, these people, they laugh and they laugh and they laugh and they talk about me and, oh, I'm just this crazy, terrible person. And then I really don't understand brown skin lady. I really don't. I understand now that she's saying she never liked me, but I just don't get that, because she didn't act like she never liked me. It was very cordial. And maybe these people think cordial. I don't know what they think. I really don't. But the disrespect that she displays for herself and others today, and mainly myself and Essatar, and for what reason? And she keeps holding on to this lie that I said that she was involved in a scam. I didn't say that in the beginning. I did end up saying it in the end because I'm tired of her lying saying I said it. But I never said that about her. But her main man say she was a scammer. She wasn't none nor her daughter. And she doesn't seem to have an issue with that. She runs on this panel like she's Cinderella, hoping midnight doesn't come. I don't understand that. Every time she mentions my name, I don't mess with her. I don't like her. And then she calls me an expletive. So very unnecessary. And then that woman over there that sound like a man and look like a bulldog, calling me all kind of, she calls me this DICK word, sucker. Why would you do that, woman? I mean, do you feel that way about everybody with no teeth, or is it just me? I don't know you and you don't know me, and all of this talking you're doing for skinny. And you pretend you don't hang with nobody, but you do. Just a few months ago, she and 504 were talking about each other like junkyard dogs. I never heard women talk so nasty. And you notice these people, when they get angry at you, they always go for sexual. That tells you something about these people. And if it doesn't, then I need you to just start listening. Regular adults in their everyday vernacular don't just sit up and talk about sexual body parts. or the feelings that you get from it, or the juices that flow from it. Normal people don't do that. It has to be some depravity somewhere in the mind. Something had to have happened to the child. That's why we're covering toxic parents, because it's these type of behaviors in this book causes these type of behaviors that these people are displaying in this metaverse. And then they love to come to you and say, hit the link. It's not content for me. I didn't come here for that. Y'all don't do that. Y'all do that and get paid, do what you do. Hi, Cheryl Palmer. Happy to see you. I think this is real sick stuff that's going on. And then we discovered a real live predator. I went to say a moment ago, it was Armando Black running around with the little Chris Hansen and all of his little thumbnails at one while was to catch a predator. And they were referring to Suge. And then, of course, that man over there, Skinny, referred that to me. But isn't it amazing? We have a predator, but nobody want to discuss the predator. Isn't that amazing? Nobody want to call the police and see if this man is really supposed to be, and not the police, maybe the department that does the registering for those type of sexual offenders, to see if a man on the register, if his conditions of him being on the register allows him to be on YouTube, allows him to sell Bitcoin. Do he have the proper license for that? They're all talking about, Skinny talking about calling people's jobs. And I heard him say that he said at first Straight Talk called Social Security, but I believe it was him. He called Asatar's job. And you know that they're doing this for content, because he called Asatar's job not in his name, but talking about Mr. Skinny TV. Who does that? And that's also people can give. I tell y'all, that's not living. That's miserable. And misery loves company. I mean, it's unbelievable the things that they let come out of their mouths. And all of it is very explicit and sexual. And they want me, well, I know Skinny is not getting paid, but they want me to believe that they're actually getting advertisement on their videos. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. All of mine have to go through manual review. And the majority of them make it. But there are one or two that didn't. And that's because I put them in a status not to. Because I knew how I was going to be talking. But y'all, it's people on here making millions of dollars, and they're not talking under nobody's clothes. They're not in the graveyard digging up nobody's dead relatives. They're not trying to be with anybody. As much as this man talk about doing something to these men, children, that should be a concern for the YouTube family. For this man to stay on tape talking about what he would do to TY's children. And then he has two children that look like they have special needs, and you can't mention his special needs children. You can't do that. Then he has a team, a war team, that flags, and they proudly brags on flagging you because of another man. They love to talk about what people do for another man. These males do a lot for other males. They're very disrespectful Chase said that I think I'm in the conscious community. Never once did I ever proclaim that I was in the conscious community. I don't even know what that is. That sounds good. But I seen a lot of the same scamming and trickery. I go with knowledge and scholarship. And I don't care if they call themselves a 1%er, a 5%er, a 7.5%er, a Hebrew Israelite, a Moor, a Christian, a Muslim. I don't care what you call yourself. You call yourself what you need to call yourself. I can tell you who I am. And I am that I am. And I am an Asiatic Moor, indigenous to the American plain, known as the Native American. Cherokee, they call the tribe that I'm from. Yana Anguilla. You can go all anywhere you want to go with this thing. That's your choice. Research is available. All the books are there. I don't profess to be nothing but who I am. And I am that I am. And I bow to no man or woman, as a matter of fact, male or female. I honor you, whoever you are, because you're you. And I always give respect when respect is given. You see, you can't make anybody respect you, just like you can't make anybody love you. You can't do that. Hey, Donkey Green, glad you're here. That's given. It's a given. No matter how you beat someone or how much money you give them, if they don't respect you, they don't respect you. If they don't love you, they don't love you. My older sister told me one thing about a guy. If you love a guy and if he doesn't love you back, even if you kill him, he still don't love you in the grave. So if love is what you're seeking, then you want to be with someone that can and who will love you. Because there's nothing you can do in this life to make someone love or want you. And it's up to you to know if a person is treating you the way you want to be treated. First, you got to first know how you want to be treated. Then you got to be willing to treat others in that same manner. And if you're like-minded people, then you'll get what you're due. But if you're around people who are like these deviants here, who are now all of a sudden, we have a real live predator on YouTube with 3 convictions. And we want to continue to pretend we don't understand the definition of words. Now all of a sudden convictions are not convictions. Now all of a sudden misdemeanors are more, well, we know that in law, the nature of them are classes, but now we want to play like misdemeanors because they're misdemeanors and not felonies, that they're okay. No. A crime of moral turpitude, whether it's a penny or 5 million. If you're a thief, it carries the same weight. Because the principle behind that is your moral compass and your willingness to take something that is not yours. So So because you say misdemeanor and this one say felony and no, it's a misdemeanor, that does not excuse the act, the criminal act that took you to the bargaining table for you to plea down. Doesn't excuse the act, the crime that was committed. And we say we love the children and they're our future. What are we really giving the children of the future? What are we really showing them? Because children, they have a way of, and we were once children. And so if you think I'm lying, just go back to the vicissitudes of your own mind and just think about your most learned behavior was from seeing, not from being told. Because as I shared before, people oftentimes, they hear what you say. They don't hear what you mean. That's why sometimes you have to say it over and over again. Or sometimes you have to break it down and explain what you mean. The majority of us are not clairvoyant, although some of us are. The majority of us, although we have intuition, are not intuitive. But some of us are. Therefore, all of us are not light. Some of us are dark. And you need to have both to have balance. That's the duality of life. And it goes along with the 7 Hermetic principles. I have a video on the 7 Hermetic principles. You know, as it is above, so it is below. You know, the water ebbs and flows. You know, everything is vibration. Every positive has an opposite, which is a negative. You got to navigate. You have to choose how you're going to be. And do know that you're making a choice. Normally, you're going to have to choose right. Because you know if you're not doing right, then you're doing what? The very opposite, which is wrong. These are fundamentals that you learn, the foundation that's laid to children when they're at home. We need to teach our children self-discipline. Self-discipline will take you far. And it can take you as high as you'd like to go. You heard that saying about your attitude determines your aptitude. And then they say your altitude. It's all in how you view things and how you express how you view things. That's really what it's all about. It's about energy. And you know, a lot of us don't even know that we have an energy body as well as a physical body. But there are some of us that can actually read energy. And a person never have to open their mouth. And you can feel the temperament of that person. You don't know the operation of their mind. You know the temperament, the attitude of that person. But it's a sad day when we as a people have cried our whole existence I'm 64 years old, and all we've talked about is the inequality and how we haven't had an opportunity to be. And that's what I fight for, the opportunity for people just to be. And then you get on here and you thinking you're making, business associates and you're going to help each other grow, only to find out from your first cash app that person have gotten your whole life story and they're waiting to make you their content and start doxing your whole life. That's what a lot of these people do in this metaverse. And then they present your family, no matter how good or how bad. And then they'll say, that's good content. And won't you give to make the haters mad? And then when you return the favor, then they say that you are dark and you're going to get yours. Then you start getting text on your phone. You're going to die. You get phone call after phone call after phone call. And my son tried to warn me about this kind of craziness, and I told him, oh, no, son, none of that will happen to me because I'm not talking about what they talk about, so that'll never happen to me. Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids. One deranged man decided to make me public enemy number one. And he tested his chat. And when no one pushed back, I became, overnight, 367 days ago. Overnight, public enemy number one. And I had so many, making video after video after video, holding panels. I mean, they were on shows like we were looking at Merv Griffin. We were looking at, these are people I grew up looking at. Phil Donahue, Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse Raphael. I mean, every day, all day. If it's 7 people on this panel, 6 of them were content creators, 5 maybe at the time, and they were on 5 different shows in one day. Each one of them hosted. Let's talk about this old, deranged, big fat, called me every name you can think of. Toothless, bald-headed, stuck to the chair. And brown-skinned lady was so stuck on smelling the chair. And I don't know why she would want to smell the chair, but, I showed them my chair, what it smells like. I wear the finest. Almost every bottle of Joe Malone that I own is $250. Some is a little more expensive, some a little less. But I couldn't understand that concept. Wonder what a drawers look like. Who wants to see somebody's underwear? But those are the kind of things that I was hearing about me. How did it get that way? Nobody can explain to me anything I've done to them. Nobody. Well, she mentioned people's names and they talk about me every day. Isn't that crazy? They say the rule was, if you don't mention my name, I don't mention your name. But if you mention my name, you become content. But I mentioned none of those people's name, and I became all of them's content for one man. And then he does it for one man. And then you have another deranged Armando over there doing it for one man. And the one man, all roads lead back to Kwame Brown. The has-been that never was, but had an opportunity to be. And he squandered the opportunity. The man whose records are sealed so we can't see just how bad his criminal history is. But we do know the sins of the father does follow you sometimes. And we know the sins of his father and his brothers. And all of them are criminal. And then he bring them on YouTube to attack us women. And I ask no man to go toe to toe with these people. It's not worth it. But us as a community, we can't stop them one way. We can't sue YouTube. I already did that with Google and found out you can't do it. So I had to dismiss them from my lawsuit. USC 47, Section 230 taught me you can't do anything to any of these social media platforms. Congress won't allow it. It's too much money. They're not going to allow that much money to be in the hands of the people. I can live with that. But you can take action against these individuals. And if you don't have what I have to present yourself in federal or state court, you do have a hierarchy. And you start at the top. Anytime you're not a part of the chain, you start at the top. We have the power of the pen. We have a voice. This is a business for these people. They have algorithms that determines how things goes. They don't know the stuff that these people are doing to us on a daily basis. The threat. Sister T received people coming by her home. They don't know this kind of stuff. We can use our power as a people. It's called pen and paper. Some people say, I just don't know what to say. Yeah, you do. Someone is being hurt. And someone is doing it. And I'm witnessing it. You know, they got this thing talking about the snitching. I don't know how people feel about that, but I do believe in telling. See, I believe you're only as sick as your secrets. If you keep secrets, you're going to keep some issues. Physically, emotionally, financially. You're going to forever be in debt to something. And Lord knows I owe a lot of people right now. But my debt is because I help a lot of people. And I don't mind helping people. I try to encourage people. Always. To be the best you can be. Don't compare you to nothing outside of you. Because nothing compares to you. Nothing and no one. You are. You. And once you really know that, start learning about you. Start learning about the anatomy. Start learning about our electrical system, our energy system. Start learning about eating. And no matter what we learn, we do know that things are happening to the food, the water, the air. We can't do anything about that but make the best choices that we can make. That's all we can do. If you do the best that you can do, nature herself . will be in harmony with you. These bodies that we were given are resilient. They have the capacity, the ability to heal themselves. Unfortunately, we have a lot of medication, and we got away from the herbs and the natural way to do things. And once we start doing that, then we got to take the medication. I take medication every day, and will take until I leave out of here. Matter of fact, my pacemaker is an apparatus that keeps my heart pacing at a normal beat. I was born with a 3rd-degree heart block. Didn't find out until I had my son after the age of 22. So I really enjoy what I do, no matter who comes to visit or who doesn't. I'm going to always try to give you something that can help you be better or help you understand. Maybe if it's not applicable to you, it may be applicable to somebody that you know. And you probably can't do anything for them, because we know, as in anything, the person has to want it for themselves, for their lives to change. No one can want it for them more than they want it for themselves. And if you do, then you have a lot of misplaced emotions yourself, because you are the star on your stage. And that's either the stage of life, YouTube, or wherever you are. You are the Oscar winner, the Emmy, the Grammy. You, the Purple Heart, the bronze, the gold, the silver. It's all up to you. Nobody else. And we need each other to help us navigate. Maybe you've overcome something that I'm having an issue with. Maybe I've overcome something that you're having an issue with. And perhaps if we can talk it out, we can help each other see things differently. That's what it's all about. But I'm determined, as far as me and YouTube, I ain't going nowhere. Not anywhere until I get tired and can't do it anymore. Because I love talking to people. I love hearing from people. I love sharing the things that I've learned. And I'm not judgmental. Although I talk about everybody I know, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm going to do that. So know that. And what you also should know, if somebody tells you something I said, if you have an issue with it, always come to me. There are some things that you say that you don't want people to know you said. But if you said it to another human being, chances are great they may find out. So it's a possibility. But there are also people who know how you speak, the words that you use. And they'll tell people stuff about you, and you had nothing to do with it. And because the person knows a little something about you, they'll say, that sounds about right. It sounds just like her. But that doesn't make that be her. I've never been that type of person. I really am who I say I am. I am that I am. And it took me a long time to get here. I worked through many of counseling sessions and many of programs to get to where I am. These people have called me a drug addict. Never. But I've loved plenty of them. And that's why I had to work a program of codependency. went and sought help in codependency, and those women were just as sick as the room next door. So I went in the room next door, and I worked a program of AA. And before I was allowed in the room, I said, but I don't have a drinking problem. And then they said, the big book doesn't require you to have a drinking problem. What it requires is for you to have a desire not to drink. Although it's totally for people with drinking problems. And that may sound like an oxymoron, but it's not. AA was to save people's lives. So it's not a church. It's an anonymous program. Then they came up with NA because so many people got hooked on drugs. But the 12 principles is what's important. And once you learn those 12 principles and exercise them in your life, it doesn't matter what the A before the A is. That's the foundation, and that will never go away. And you can't take it away, and you can't make it mean what you want it to mean. But when you learn the foundation of anything, you're a winner. When your house is built on a concrete foundation, solid. Doesn't mean concrete doesn't crack. Because we know over the years, everything does made with hands. Everything does. But when you actually learn who you are, your limitations, what you're willing to take, what you're not willing to take, don't compromise your values. If you compromise your values, forgive yourself and move forward. I think that's where we all fall short. And I have a saying that we fall short of other people's expectations and sometimes even our own. And we do. But the hardest person and the one that we kind of leave off to forgive is ourselves. We'll forgive everybody else. Sometimes you got to sit with yourself and talk it out. And the best way I found to do that was a pen and a paper. And then you got to forgive yourself. A lot of things we do, they could very well be wrong. And we don't even know it because the people don't let us know. Sometimes people won't tell you who they are. Or I should say who you are, for fear that you wouldn't want them around anymore. And then sometimes people won't tell you who they are because they feel if you knew who I really was, you wouldn't like me. But I've found it's the most honest people in the world. And I don't care what the background is. Even that biz guy, had he told me the truth, he's nobody I would hang out with or anything. But I could have understood him better by his truth. And I would probably feel some sort of compassion for him because I'm a survivor of molestation as a kid. And for some reason, when you are a survivor of anything, human, I'm talking, you have compassion for some reason for the perpetrator of whatever it is. And that may sound absolutely crazy, but I guarantee you it is not. There are many people, when they send people to prison, they don't send people to prison to reform them. They send people to prison to punish them The problem is the disparity in the time that they give, that it does a double whammy for people that look like me. But what I've seen happen over the years in the prison system, they started a program where some of the victims' mothers and fathers wanted to meet the person that took away their child's life. And it opened up a whole new world for the person who perpetrated that crime. They actually got to see that person that they committed the crime against as a human being. They actually had to have feelings for that person because they saw them in the person of their parents. And then the parents got to see the animal that's what they called them when they killed their child. But they got to see sometimes the deficit in their character. And then they got to hear their story. And then those two became friends. They didn't hang out together because the person is in prison. But they did communicate one with each other. They build from that. The commonality then became the victim. And the parents' love for the victim and that person not knowing the impact of the victim built relationships. It's so many ways to build. But again, a predator of his nature, I don't believe, and he may be as reformed as they come, but with the arrogance and the way he talks to people and the names that he called and the way he viciously attacked women, it's very hard to believe that he's reformed and that he should be even allowed on social media. And I believe that's true of a lot of these men. And just because we don't see your paperwork doesn't mean it didn't happen. Those are the longest running jokes that snake of a man said about me. He said I was lying on my brother for molesting me because there was no paperwork. You know how sick of a person you have to be to say stuff like that? And then you know how even sicker you have to be to give money to laugh at that? Oh, so funny until it's not. Oh, so funny until it's not. I thank you guys for being with me. I think I've talked enough. I am truly grateful for you guys coming and supporting me in the manner that you do. You guys all hit the like button, and I certainly appreciate everybody in the bushes that hit the like button, because we know I haven't had 33 people in here and I got 33 likes, so that really makes my heart smile, and I thank you guys immensely. I look forward to seeing you all Sunday. Hopefully I'll be where I'm not coughing so much and nose running, and I will be back on camera, because I am a person, I believe in you knowing me, not just my avatar. As you know, I change it. I try to go with the theme of whatever I'm going to talk about. That picture there is one of my t-shirts that I sell, because I do sell t-shirts, and that's Healing the Womb Man Inside. And the meaning behind that is recovery from molestation. And we all have a wounded child inside of us. And so we women have the little girl, and then the men have the little boy. It doesn't mean you had to be molested or whatever. Whatever your situation is, that little person is still inside of us. And most of us don't go back and repair that pain. That's what this book, Toxic Parents, is giving stories of people that knew something was wrong with their lives, and now that they're going to therapy, she's able to help them see the root of the problem and how it started growing in their lives. We all need each other, whether we communicate with one another or not. We really do. We need each other. And we need each other to survive. I'm very comfortable in my skin and being alone. But we were created as interdependent beings. From the moment we come out of the womb, we have to get held tight to our moms to connect us back to where we came. We need to understand that. We need to understand the importance of the woman's womb. It's life. Life. Once we start understanding who we are individually as well as a people, we can't just continue to say how bad we're getting treated and allow these people to run rampant in the metaverse saying, oh, this is just the way it is. We're not trying to stop anybody from exercising free speech. But policies and procedure doesn't allow them to exercise free speech. So we just want to hold them to the policy and procedure of life. Because there are rules and regulations, whether they're written or spoken. There are rules that we all must follow. And if that's nothing but the common rule, and that's if I don't harm you and you don't harm me, then no harm is done. And that's what we all should strive for. Anything less than that, we're not operating at our best. If I don't harm you and you don't harm me, no harm is done. All these other stipulations kind of come along the wayside. But I know my audience, and I'm going to stick to what I do. I'm going to support the people that I support. And I've learned enough about this YouTube game to know that I don't play like all the players in the metaverse. Not interested in that game. Again, I do have another channel that sometimes if I want to go over there and talk about the people like they talk about me, I'll go there. And it's just entertainment, IJE, unapologetically toothless. I have one video. I think I gained some new members. I think I have about 53 subscribers. I have memberships on this channel. If anybody is interested in becoming a member, I have a large array of price range. I haven't done anything spectacular for my members, but what I do is if anyone would leave in my comments as I ask in my videos, hi, I'm just being me. Good to see you. Leave in the comments if you have a massage envy in your city, because I give away a free massage once a month at Massage Envy for 1 hour. And it's really worth it. And I just need people to tell me they have one in their town. I can only give away one a month. And I've been doing that for over a year, and I've only given away 6. So it's almost time where I can give my first person one again, because you can only give it to the same person twice a year, but you can give it to a different person once a month. And that's what I do for my people. I just need to know if you have one in your hometown. Having said that, of course, you know, I'm going to pay some respect on my super chat. And then, of course, you know, I play one or two of my little songs and we will call it a night. I want to thank everybody for being here. I certainly appreciate you guys. I think it's TY who says that you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to spend your time with me. And that's true. And I like that saying.
Your face. You got to remove the excess water. Now she's coming
This
out.
is how you do it. Thank you. Let me take you back to my elementary school days. I didn't do nothing to these people. I didn't do nothing to these people. I didn't do nothing to these people. People. I didn't do nothing to these people. I didn't do nothing to these people. I didn't do nothing to these people. People. I didn't do anything to these people. But I'm being bullied anyway. We will stop the bullying. And it starts with me. My new hashtag, not me. You know, sometimes in a relationship, be it male or female, we tend to not want to let go. No matter what's going on in our relationship, we just want to hold on. Sometimes we find ourselves singing this song. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I can ever go. No way. No way I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying. And you're gonna love me. Ooh, love me. You know, sometimes in a relationship, be it male or female, we tend to not want to let go. No matter what's going on in our relationship, we just want to hold on. Sometimes we find ourselves singing this song. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I can ever go. No way. No way I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying. And you're gonna love me. Ooh, love me. You're gonna love me. And I am telling you, I'm not going, even though the rough times are showing. There's just no way, there's no way. We're part of the same place. We're part of the same time. We both share the same blood. We both have the same mind. And time we've had so much to share. No, 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 no. I'm not waking up tomorrow morning, and finding that there's nobody there. Darling, there's no way. No, 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 no way. I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. You see, there's just no way. There's no way. Tear down the mountains, yell, scream, and shout. Like you can say what you want to, I'm not walking out. Stop all the rivers, push, strike, and kill. I'm not going to leave you. There's no way I will. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I can ever go. No, 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 no way. No, 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 no way. I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. Not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying. And you're gonna love me. You're gonna love me. Yes, you are. Ooh, ooh, love me. Ooh, 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 love me. Love me. Love me. Love me. You're gonna love me. You can't beat the tag team giving, no matter how hard you try. They'll just keep on and keep on telling lies on videos. Do or die. They'll send trolls in your chat to get you all bent. You just keep going and stay focused on the content, because you can't beat the tag team giving. That ain't no lie. It is written, shun the very appearance of evil, and don't let your good be evil spoken of. See that old man over there in his chair? This old man is living in the bottle. He done quit his 9 to 5. He drink full time, and now he's living in the bottle. Well, see that old man over there in his chair? This old man got a problem, and it's a bad one. Now he done pawned off everything, his old woman wedding ring for the bottle. Well, and don't you think it's a crime when time after time people living in the bottle? These people living in the bottle, y'all. In remembrance of CJ, drove the hearse Cadillac. A crowd of people gathered round, all dressed in black. And as they removed his body from the car. Such pain she never knew has filled her heart. Why, oh why, I heard his mother cry. But oh Lord, it was the beginning of her end. Justice for CJ. Did you know that mental health is a family affair? It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, one child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mama loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood thicker than the mud. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Oh, a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave because your heart is there. But you can't stay because you've been somewhere else. You can't cry because you look broke down, but you're crying anyway because you're all broke down. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, it's a family affair. Hey, hey. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. You see, Cheryl will do what she said she will do. She will stand by her word and see it through. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. There just ain't one. There just ain't one weapon, no. You see, I'm the weapon. And I do what I say I'm going to do. That's it right there. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be, so I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.